Hi everybody. Today I'm going to be giving a demonstration of pyDriveWire's DLOAD feature. I'm going to be giving the demo portion first. We're going to load Nitrous-9 over DLOAD and then over DriveWire, and we're going to use MAME to do that. And then after that, we'll follow the technical information. So let's get started. I have my pyDriveWire running here, and I want to show that DW instance show. I want to show that I have two instances running here. Instance 0, the one that's labeled main, is on port 65504. This one is for DriveWire. Instance 1, which is labeled for DLOAD, is the one that we're going to be deloading over. So I'm going to explain again how this works at the end of the video. DW instance, select 1. DLOAD status, DLOAD enable. Okay, so we're on instance 1, as is shown here, and DLOAD is now enabled. Just want to point out quickly that on pyDriveWire, you cannot do DriveWire and DLOAD at the same time. You can enable DLOAD, do DLOADing, disable DLOAD, and then go back to DriveWire, but you can't do both at the same time. It's only one or the other. Okay, so if we look at the DLOAD config, we have this directory NOS9. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. So I have DW3 DOS, which is what we're going to use to actually load Nitrous-9. This is actually a bin file, which contains the kernel. Normally this would get loaded from track 34 of the disk, but we have it as a separate file so that we can load it over DLOAD. And then we're going to be loading Nitrous-9 6809 level 1. So that disk image is here. This is not EOU, this is regular Nitrous-9. So since we have our DriveWire running and we have the Nitrous-9 kernel and everything ready to go, let's just do one small thing. I want to show the data going by. Now we can start MAME. I will explain all of these options one at a time. We have MAME, have Coco2B, RS-232 is going to no modem is going to bitbanger, port 65505. So this part is the DLOAD connection, and then some display settings. So we go ahead and run this, and we get our MAME running. Quickly switch windows here. Alrighty, we're ready to go. Now that MAME is running, let's just very quickly review the MAME settings. Okay, Becker port is enabled on port 65504. And we're going to be deloading at 2400 baud today, which does require a small poke. But everything looks like it's all set up over here. Running. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to do a poke. We are going to be deloading at a non-standard baud rate of 2400. So poke E6,19. By the way, this poke will be documented in the pyDriveWire manual. Now we do DLOADM DW3 DOS. This will load the bin file from the DLOAD server. We should see that activity in the other window in the background. And there it goes. All right. Now, when I type exec, this should boot Nitrous 9 level 1, and it's going to do it over DriveWire over the Becker port. So we just type exec, and we'll watch that boot up. So now it's booting Nitrous 9 level 1. Okay, level 1. Yep. Wow. The date is wrong. Haha. There must be a problem with this, but that's okay. Yeah, Nitrous 9 level 1. Not really that much exciting that we can do here, but this actually works. So that's this demo. 2. I decided to do a second demo. We're going to load one of the Game On Challenge games over DriveWire. So let's prepare for that. I have the Buzzworm disk here. I'm going to use Toolshed to take a look at that. Okay, we've got the bin file. So let's copy that out. We want to copy it in binary format. So buzzworm.disk buzzworm.bin, and we're going to copy that to buzzwm. Okay. So I have the buzzworm file here. Now let's just set up the pyDriveWire server to load this. So I already started the command. I'm going to make an alias, which is another feature that we have from the pyDriveWire server. You can make an alias from a name to a path. So I have DLOAD alias add buzzwm, and now you put the path. This is in this directory, buzzwm. So when the Coco asks for buzzwm, it will actually get this file. Okay, let's go ahead and start main back up again. Same configuration as before. Okay, looks like both things are connected here. So now we're doing 2400 baud again. So we want to DLOAD M buzzwm. And this should load the file that we set up just a moment ago. And looks like it's loading it. Okay, it looks like the loading has finished. Now we can just type exec and we should be able to run the game. Press reset if the screen is not red. Then press any key. Okay, buzzworm. Press any key to scroll. Press enter for game. R resets during play. Okay. One player. Player name. Level. You guys know I'm not really a game player, so I think we better do level 0. I'll set 0. Keyboard, please. I'm not doing anything. No, you can't eat yourself. Oh no. I wanted to make the screen bigger, but apparently I can't do that. Do, 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 do. I can't go in. Yeah, it's hard to go in there. One more, see if I can get in here. Oh, I bit myself. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you guys with the rest of this game. This was the demo portion. Next, I'm going to go over the technical information to explain how this was all set up. 1. Okay, now it's time for the technical information, also known as nap time. Right. Let's get right into it. So on the left side, we have our Coco 2B, and the right side, we have pyDriveWire. And as I explained before, in the MAME setup, there are two different connections in between MAME and pyDriveWire. One of them is the Becker port, and the other one is the serial connection. First, we're going to talk about the Becker port. The Becker port connection is very simple. It connects over a TCP/IP socket from MAME straight into pyDriveWire. Now we're going to connect the bitbanger connection, which if you are on a physical Coco, it would be the 4-pin DIN connector in the back of the machine. But in MAME, instead, everything of course is virtual, so we can configure what that connects to. The first thing that we do is we take the bitbanger port on the back of the Coco, and we connect that into a null modem adapter. That null modem adapter connects to another bitbanger, the one that's inside of MAME. So we have the bitbanger in the Coco talking to another bitbanger inside of MAME. And MAME's bitbanger, we can actually connect to the outside world. So we use a TCP/IP socket, and we connect MAME's bitbanger into pyDriveWire. And in this case, for this example, we're using instance number 1, which is the DLOAD instance. So this is a complete setup. We have both the DLOAD connection on the bitbanger port, and we have the Becker port for DriveWire communication. So we have both things here. So this is what the configuration file looks like. And as I described, we have two different instances. We have instance 0, which is being used for DriveWire, and another instance which is being used for DLOAD. So the DriveWire configuration on instance 0 is the top part of the file. We have option accept true, and that simply means that we're listening on the TCP/IP socket. And then we have port 65504, which is the standard DriveWire port. And we have another option which brings up the web interface. So this is the configuration for instance 0. And the second part is the DLOAD instance on instance 1. We're also accepting a TCP/IP port connection. On a different port, 65505, DLOAD is enabled, and I have it configured to go to my Nitrous 9 example directory, which we showed in the demo a little bit earlier. So this is the complete pyDriveWire configuration which I used. Now, some of you may not use MAME, and you may not want to have all this fancy stuff. Well, you can also do the same thing with physical hardware. So the setup here is a little bit simpler. You have the bitbanger port in the back of a Coco, and you have that connected to a cable into a USB adapter, and USB adapter goes into your computer. And you configure pyDriveWire a little bit differently here. You tell it to use USB serial port. In my case, I tend to use Linux or Mac description, but of course, where I have dev T2Y USB 0, you can put COM3 or whatever COM number your USB serial adapter is. And for Coco 2, you use 57600 baud rate for DriveWire. So note in this setup, there's only one connection in between the Coco and pyDriveWire, and you need to use this same connection for both DLOAD and DriveWire. Now that we have the hardware setup described, let's talk about the pyDriveWire configuration file. So in this case, we only have one connection in between the Coco and pyDriveWire server. And that's on that one serial connection, so we're actually using it for both. So the configuration file looks something like this. This is just an example. We're telling it to use dev T2Y USB 0 or replace that string with COM3 or whatever. For Coco 2, you would use 67600 baud. Again, we have the web page, and we're just telling DLOAD, hey, when the Coco is loading files, you can go to this particular directory. Note that in this configuration, I have not enabled DLOAD because the way you want to use it is you probably want to enable DLOAD, do your DLOADing, disable DLOAD, and then do DriveWire. So that example would look something like this. I'm going to use MAME to demonstrate it, but this should serve as enough of an example. I'm going to give the example of how you would go about doing this over physical hardware. So I have pyDriveWire running, and DLOAD is currently disabled. So I'm going to turn on my Coco. In this case, I'm actually using MAME, but never mind. This is supposed to be the physical hardware demo. Okay, everything looks good here. So I want to do the DLOADing. I would run the command DLOAD enable and baud rate. I'm using 2400 in this case, which does require a poke. So let's do that. These pokes are documented in the pyDriveWire manual. So now that I have DLOAD enabled and I have done the poke, we can do the DLOAD M. And we should see this loading up. Okay, now that that's loaded, I would go back to the pyDriveWire server and disable DLOAD. Remember, you cannot have DLOAD and DriveWire active on the same port at the same time. You can enable DLOAD and do DLOADing. Then you disable DLOAD, you can go back to using DriveWire. All right, so I've done my DLOADing. I've disabled it on the server. Now, all I have to do is type exec, and DW3DOS is going to load the kernel over DriveWire, and we're going to start Nitrous 9 level 1. All right, folks, so this concludes the DLOAD demo. I hope you enjoyed this one. Bye for now.